At this time, I will reconvene into open session this meeting of the Arlington Independent School District Board of Trustees for October 19th, 2023 at 7:22 p.m. Members of the public may access this meeting via AISD website at www.aisd.net. One or more of our trustees may participate in this meeting via video conference call. A quorum of the Board of Trustees will be physically present at the administration building. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our board meetings are open to the public, and we welcome civic input and thank you for participating in public education. While our meetings are open to the public, this is a meeting, and we do have business to conduct. Disruptions will not be permitted. Anyone who disrupts a meeting or speaks when others are speaking may be asked to leave or may be escorted out by security. We welcome civic input, but we must insist that we remain respectful and civil. Thank you for your cooperation. We will start our meeting with the opening ceremony. Please join Mr. Chapa in leading us in the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. Please silence all cell phones and electronic devices to avoid disruptions to those around you. And now, if you would please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please excuse our informal dress this evening, but we are here to support our Texas Rangers, and they have been wonderful community partners with AISD, and so we're just showing our support. So thank you for the indulgence this evening. Next on our agenda are our open forum for agenda items. As stated on the posted agenda, members of the public who desire to address the board regarding an item on this agenda are required to register at www.aisd.net board meeting speaker request no later than 3 p.m. the day of the board meeting. Ms. Forsberg, do we have any requesters registered to address the board regarding agenda items?
Sorry. We have no registered speaker for non-agenda items. We have 2 for agenda items.
Thank you, Ms. Forsberg. Next on the agenda are our administrative ratifications and appointments. Dr. Wirtz.
Thank you, President Fowler. I'd like to recommend the board ratify the appointment of the individuals discussed in closed session for principal at Ditto Elementary and assistant principal for Bowie P-Tech High School.
Do we have a motion to approve the administrative ratifications as discussed in executive session?
Motion.
I have a motion by Ms. McMurrow. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by, all of a sudden I drew a blank. Brooklyn Richardson. Dr. Wirtz.
Do we need to vote?
You want to speak?
No.
Since we have one of our members that is not present, we'll do a roll call vote. Dr. Reich.
Aaron Reich, I vote yes.
Brooklyn Richardson, I vote yes.
Sarah McMurrow, I vote yes.
Justin Chapa, I vote yes.
Leanne Haynes, I vote yes.
Mr. Wilbanks? You're on mute, Mr. Wilbanks.
David Wilbanks, I vote yes.
Melody Fowler, I vote yes. Thank you. Vote goes in the affirmative. Dr. Wirtz?
All right, so I'd like to invite you, when you hear your name, to please stand so we can recognize and introduce you. And first, I'd like to introduce you to the new principal of Ditto Elementary, Margaret Minyard. So as you know, Mrs. Minyard has actually been at Ditto as interim for the whole school year, and she joined Ditto very quickly at the last minute before school started. She's done an outstanding job, and we're really excited that you're taking on this role. A little bit of background about Mrs. Minyard. She served as a first grade teacher in Castleberry Elementary School, and then she came to Arlington ISD and she was at Anderson for several years, and she served as a second grade teacher, a fourth grade teacher, a fifth grade teacher. She was a librarian at Wood Elementary. She was a librarian at Miller Elementary, the assistant principal at Moore Elementary, and now the principal at Ditto. She earned her Master of Education at Stephen F. Austin and also Master of Library Science at Sam Houston State University, and she earned her Bachelor's of Sociology right here at University of Texas Arlington. So congratulations, Mrs. Minier. We're happy to have you. We also want to introduce the new assistant principal at Bowie P Tech High School, Miss Alicia Duvall. So Ms. Duvall actually comes to Arlington. She was working at the Universal Academy in Irving, Texas as a social studies teacher in 9th through 12th and also as an English language arts teacher in grades 5 and 6 and an athletics coach. She also in Arlington ISD served as a history teacher for 7th and 8th grade and a coach at Carter Junior High and a reading teacher in the same school. And she's been the assistant principal at Bowie High School. So congratulations. She actually earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Legal Studies at Texas Wesleyan University and her Master of Science in Education Administration from Concordia. So congratulations, Ms. Duvall. We're happy to have you. Yep.
I want to, on behalf of the board, thank you both for agreeing to step into your new positions. You have been selected because of your skills and qualities, and we thank you for stepping into these new positions, and we appreciate you. We have some background out here if you want to step outside in the hallway with your family and friends and take pictures, or you're welcome to stay for the whole entire meeting, whichever you choose. Yay! Ooh, look at this. Ditto is. Yes. All right, next on the agenda is discussion item A. Dr. Wertz.
So thank you, President Fowler. Tonight we bring for the board's consideration the 23-24 campus performance objectives and district scorecard. You've received copies of these, so you've been able to peruse through all the different campus performance objectives and the district scorecard. It's important for everyone to note that these are created in alignment with the district performance objectives and goals that were set and already adopted by the board, with the idea that as all the campuses achieve their goals, we as a system achieve ours. So Dr. Buell is here this evening, our interim Chief Academic Officer, to share a presentation.
All right, good evening, President Fowler, members of the board, Dr. Wertz. So tonight we're going to be talking about our campus performance objectives and also our AISD scorecard. So again, just grounding us in the purpose of the presentation. The purpose of our work is to guide our campus and our district staff in a systemic way of improving throughout our system so that we're all aligning towards our goals and objectives as a district. This started with our strategic plan that was developed in 2022. It's our 5-year plan. And we have our strategic priorities that we're going to align all of our work with. Then we came to you in September and asked you to approve our district improvement plan and those priorities, which you did. And now that brings us to the point in this alignment process where we are going to discuss our district scorecard tonight and what those indicators are that show that we're actually on track to achieve the goals that we've stated as part of our district improvement plan and ultimately our 5-year strategic plan. We're also going to look at our campus improvement plans tonight and look at the objectives that the campuses have set forth in order to align back to that district scorecard, the district improvement plan, and our strategic plan. So again, our vision in Arlington is to have 100% of our students that are ready to graduate, exceptionally prepared for college, career, and citizenship. So again, in September, we ask you to approve the district performance objectives. And tonight, we're going to talk about our campus improvement plans and request that you approve those. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the process that we've gone through in supporting our campuses in the development of their plans. We really took a deep dive with this year and slowed it down a little bit to try to provide the support to campuses to ensure that the objectives that they are really focused on, and then ultimately that the strategies that they develop are grounded in the root cause and the data of the campus. So our Research and Accountability Office conducted a workshop for all of our campuses. Our executive directors were there also to support our principals in that, to really dive down into the data and do a needs analysis to be able to really understand how they can determine what the highest levers are that are going to allow them to have the results that they desire for their campus. And so that was a really thorough process. Each of our principals were able to bring a couple of instructional leadership team members with them to that training so that they could have some collaboration around what those strategies should be. So the principals with the ILT conducted this comprehensive needs assessment. They took that back to engage their site-based decision-making teams and collaborated as a campus to get that buy-in to, are we selecting the highest levers for the campus that will bring about the improvement that we need. The executive directors were involved in that process as well. They met with each of the principals to go over the campus improvement plans, to also provide feedback on those, and they'll continue to help support the implementation of those throughout the year by doing some fidelity checks and checking back in to make sure that the measures that are put in place, that we actually have evidence of that. So that's a big role for our principals and our executive directors. So now we're at the point tonight where we're bringing the performance objectives to you for approval. Another part of this, we had 35 of our schools that have been engaged. Jared Zahn leads he's our director of school improvement, and so he's helped support 35 of our campuses that needed a little extra support to be able to really do a deep dive into the needs of their campuses. And we leveraged the Effective School Framework for this. All of these campuses aren't required to do it by the state of Texas, but we feel like this is a thorough process and a lot of valuable resources to help guide our principals to make the right decisions about, you can't do everything, but what are the most important actions that we should take as a campus to be able to really lead to improvement. So I won't go into a lot of detail on it, but it's around 5 primary levers of strong school leadership, well-supported teachers, positive school culture, high-quality curriculum, and effective instruction. So they're asked when they do when they go through the framework and the analysis, they're asked to select 2 levers, and we want to see that is embedded into their campus improvement plans. If it's a school that has to do a TIP, we don't want that to be seen as something else. We want it to also be in alignment. So Jared works to support them in that. So do our executive directors. They will, every 90 days, they'll go through a review process with Jared Zahn and then also their executive director, where they'll come together and they'll look at the goals that have been established and look for the evidence and try to determine, are there some mid-course adjustments that we need to make in order to continue to improve. So we think that that's a really beneficial support for our campuses. As part of the support that we gave the principals in their workshop, we really dove deep into their data. They were given overall campus data as well as many reports on student groups, because we want to make sure that as the campuses are developing these plans, they have systems that take this down to the individual student level and that we have ways of monitoring that. So that's been a big part of their work this year. We will continue, as I said, with the quarterly updates and the progress monitoring strategies where they'll come together and, they may look at it and realize they need to discontinue something because it's not working. And we want these to be living documents and to make those mid-course adjustments if they need to, certainly in collaboration with their leadership team and with the site-based decision-making team. We need to stop and look. Are we making the progress we expected? Or are we making no progress? And if so, why? So that we don't wait till the end of the year, but we can make those adjustments as we go. And so certainly, continue or modify. And what we really hope is that we see a lot of hard evidence on accomplishment and how we're moving towards those goals. So now moving from our campus improvement plan process to our 2023-24 district scorecard. Y'all should have been given a draft of this. We're going to talk about 3 different areas: the academic goals, the experiences, and then efficiencies. And this will be our checkpoint as a district to see that we're making the intended progress throughout the year. So the first one is to increase the STAR reading performance from 71 to 73% at the approaches level or above, and then from 46 to 48% at the meets or above, and 15 to 16% at the masters above. And this is for all students in reading. The next one is around math, and again going from the 67 to 70% at the approaches level, 35 to 39% at the meets level, and 13 to 15% at the master's level. And then we're going to switch to our focus, which we're going to talk about a little deeper in another presentation tonight, are our 3rd grade goals around House Bill 3. So for 3rd grade STAR specifically, we want to look at the reading performance and move from 65 to 68% approaches, from 38 to 42% meets, and 11 to 14% masters. And then again with math, from 62 to 66% on approaches, 33 to 35% at meets, and then 12 to 13% at our master's level. And then we also want to keep our eye very closely on that CCMR progress, and so we want to increase the percentage of students who receive a CCMR, or College Career Military Readiness Point, from 78% to 85%. So those are the academic goals that we have on our scorecard, and we will continue to monitor very closely throughout the year. You should also see that our campus, if all of our campuses achieve their goals, there's alignment back to that. If every campus achieves it, then we'll achieve that as a district. So that will be part of the progress monitoring that will go throughout the year. We're also looking tonight at the experiences. So design and implement the appropriate phase 3 actions in order to be able to achieve our strategic plans. We're in the 3rd year of that plan, and so we segment that out over the course of the 5 years, and we've identified those areas that we really need to focus on as part of phase 3, and so that'll be something that we're rolling out this year. And then implement strategies to improve student behavior systems district-wide that result in a decrease in level 1 and level 2 recidivism. And we already have a district level cross-department committee that's really working on that, because we know that is a high priority and is just essential to a quality of education for all of our students. So definitely a high priority area. And then the efficiencies that have been identified for the district scorecard is to propose general fund budgets that are aligned to the strategic plan priorities, to develop and implement comprehensive strategies to increase student attendance, which is really key and important. And you'll notice that in each of the campus improvement plans, they have attendance goals, and we've all of our principals are aware of that, and they're working to develop plans in order to meet those targets. So that's something that we'll continue to closely monitor at the campus level throughout the year, because if each of our campuses are hitting those targets, then as a district we'll hit it as well. And then select an ERP system, project management firm to advise on the selection. And then once chosen, provide the project management as we implement the new ERP system. And last, Continue implementing the 2019 bond program as developed with consideration noted for the construction market and the conditions and the strategic progress scope modifications. With that, administration recommends the board approve the campus performance objectives and the district scorecard. Are there any questions?
Oh, yes, sir. Are there any questions for Dr. Beal? Dr. Reich?
Thank you, President Fowler. Thank you, Dr. Buell, for the presentation. I like the approach on the scorecard, the district scorecard this year. It's pretty well in line with what I would say we have as board goals. One question that I have regarding that on, I have to put my glasses on, sorry, on the implement strategies to improve student behavior systems wide that results in a decrease in level 1 and 2 recidivism. Did you consider putting any metrics to that as far as decrease by X percent?
Right now, we have it written that way. I will tell you that we have a committee that's coming together to develop what those strategies are, and we've already met numerous times. Our goal is to be able to really kind of land on what those strategies are by November, and through that, we will develop the measurement that we're going to have. This committee will continue to meet throughout the year to really check our progress on that, because we know that this is really important. And so we're starting with those level 1 and level 2 behaviors. Part of the considerations of our committee is to really provide support for our campus. That's really where it starts, but our campus behavior committees, and what can we do to support them in understanding their data. We have a lot of data captured on our data dashboard, and to really help look at it at a campus level to determine what are the best strategies to support this campus. Because of all the campuses we go to, the problems, they can be very unique. And so one of the biggest strategies I think we can do to support our campuses is to help them understand what their unique needs are, and then provide them resources and training to be able to meet the needs at those campuses. So we're working through that right now, and we'll be able to come back with an update on that.
Okay.
Dr.
So
Rice?
there will be metrics associated with it.
Okay.
We haven't landed quite there yet.
That's great.
So the process measures, metrics are the ones we haven't landed. In terms of the actual targets around this specific one, meaning the number of students are, the way it's worded here, basically, the decrease from level 1 to level 2, and level 1s and level 2s, that's directly aligned to the district improvement plan goal that you already adopted, and there is a measure target already established. So, but we do in the DIP have a target that says what we expect the reduction to look like. The challenge that what we don't have, and what Dr. Buell is referring to, is once strategies are put in place, we have to have process measures and targets along the way to make sure we're actually getting to that end point. And once those strategies are finalized and identified, then those process measures and interim targets will be established. But in terms of an overarching goal, that's established already in the DIP, the end of year point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Wertz. Dr. Buell, if I could ask, when we look at these numbers and we see things like 13% to 15% or 67 to 70, people looking at that may think, why are we shooting for 15%? Why aren't we shooting for 80% or 90%? Can you explain a little bit on that, on what those percentages mean and just how difficult it is to raise those?
Right. So when the goals were developed, we based that on our pre-COVID numbers and what it would take within 5 years to get back to where we were pre-COVID. We also had to take into account that the STAR was redesigned, and also what are the incremental steps that we can take and that our staff can handle and are good for our students. We would love to make that jump, but we've got to develop goals that are also realistic. And so when you look at the number, we test a lot of students in Arlington. When you look at the number of students that it takes to actually increase, 1 percent point or 2 percentage points, there's a lot. And so with our research and accountability department, we look at that data and we determine what is a realistic goal, because that's what we want to measure and that's what we want to hold out there and support our staff to be able to do. We also, yeah.
Thank you. That's a
I was
good
gonna go on.
explanation, because
You could just keep talking,
because
sorry.
when you look, people are thinking, well, why would we ever want to shoot for 42%? Why would we? But based on where we start and where we're trying to get, I don't think people, and I know I didn't until I got into this and started understanding it, just how many students and how many high grades it takes to move a percentage.
Right,
I mean, it's very interesting how this all works. Yeah, thousands.
yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, don't understand that. And I know I've talked to people in our community, and they're like, why would you ever shoot for 42% of anything or 15% of anything? But it's where you start and how many students and how many grades it takes to raise those percentage points.
I think the thing is that we're always trying to create SMART goals. We want goals that are attainable and not easy. You want it to be stretched, but you want to have the ability to actually reach the target. And you're right, when you have a system as large as Arlington ISD, in order to move even a percentage point, you're talking thousands of students, and they're not evenly distributed across all campuses. There are different needs at different schools, and so sometimes one school has a higher volume of students with need versus another school, and the work and the strategies to move those needles takes sometimes time. So it isn't that you won't get there, it's just that the volume of students and the amount of time has to be something that we keep keep realistic in terms of goals, because you want teachers working with students, but you also want them to stretch to move student achievement, but you want it to also be something that they can reach. Yeah.
And realistic. I mean, we all want those high numbers, but we have to be realistic.
That's right.
Thank you, Dr. Buell. Any other questions? All right.
David has.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Wilbanks.
Thank you, President Fowler. So Chris J, or Dr. Buell, thanks for the presentation. I really like how the district scorecard and our DIP are aligned, and also aligned with our HB3 goals. And if you pull up the scorecard, you know, the only two that aren't aligned to our DIP are our grade 3 reading and grade 3 numeracy goals. Is there a reason why those aren't in our DIP?
Yes.
The reason they're not in our DIP is because the DIP focuses on the system as a whole. These are in our, when you think about the House Bill 3 updates that we generally use, one of the things we've done in the past is we pick targeted grade levels with the idea that if there's certain grade levels that are moving, they speak to grade levels that precede them. So in the past, we've always reported out on primary grade screeners, third grade results, eighth grade results, English 1 and 2, and algebra. And so these are here specifically because House Bill 3 is calling out third grade, as the point of House Bill 3 was really around third grade reading. And so we wanted to highlight that in the scorecard for the board. And we will report our progress towards that when we meet and share with you our updates for House Bill 3 goals. But the reason why it's not like that in the DIP is because the DIP focuses on all students in reading, grades 3 through, well.
I figured that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the discipline one is in there, and I like the attendance one. That's very important because, as we all know, we get paid on attendance, not enrollment. The other, under the experiences, the first one we usually have, Dr. Buell, is related to our strategic plan and doing the appropriate phase 2 actions. And I assume in our strategic plan, you're talking about anything that is geared up for year 2, or am I conflating that with something
Year
else?
This year would be year 3.
Or year 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So under goal 2, creating and implementing a baseline of personalized professional learning plan to focus on district priorities and embeds coaching.
For year 3.
So what, like, we as a board what progress measures are you implementing so that through year 3 we can get a sense that we're achieving our goals? And 2, one of the things we talked about in our Team of H training is, this strategic plan was designed in a very different time frame, dealing with the post-COVID effects. We may have already, the necessity for a lot of our goals in this plan may not be needed going forward. So my question is around adopting these. How can we as a board be updated with progress measures to know that we're meeting those year 3 objectives in the strategic plan? And at what point do we come back and kind of reassess the plan to say, hey, maybe it's time we tweak it, or maybe this is no longer relevant?
So I'm going to go ahead and answer. This is actually a really good question because the difference between this target on the scorecard versus the other targets is this is just basically stating that we will be implementing the action plans that are connected to the strategies or the deliverables that were part of the strategic plan for year 3. The strategic plan is not actually written in a way that has measurable targets. It's not written like an academic target. There's something specific that you want, like you gave an example, professional learning, and then there's a committee that creates a whole action plan to deliver the essence of what that states or what it says. So the committee spends time thinking about like what is meant, what was the actual intent behind this strategy, and what are the actionable deliverables that have to be created to make that happen. What we'll do for the board is we'll provide routine updates over how those action plans are going, which ones are being implemented, which ones we recommend discontinuing, to get feedback. I also think there's an opportunity for example, the board governance committee to think about whether adjustments should be made based upon our recommendations. But what we'll do over the course of the school year is provide routine updates at the cadence at your discretion to give you a sense about how the progress is going in terms of the implementation of the strategies. The year 3 strategic plan action plans are in development in year 3, and then they're launched. The ones that are currently in motion are years 1 and 2. So this year they're putting all the year 3s together. But we'll to answer your question, just the way we do House Bill 3 targets, we'll have to discover a cadence. It could be, typically we've done it I think once a semester, giving you all an update on the strategic plan because it takes a while to draft the action plans, get things kind of in motion, and then make some decisions around it.
Yeah, I know there was a big gap between the launch and our first update, and I would welcome more frequent cadence on that. And I know you said these are designed to implement, but I'm a big SMART goals guy, and we need to measure. We can at least come up with some progress measures to identify if each of these what do we call them, phase 2 action plans are implemented with fidelity, and some way to objectively measure, those year 1 and year 2s, have those had a significant impact on the system as a whole, or, is this when we get ready to do our new plan, or, when do we get to a point that we kind of reevaluate the current plan to say, wait a minute, we need to make some tweaks.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbanks. Any other questions?
I've got one more question.
Oh, okay,
I've
Mr.
got
Wilbanks.
one more question. So on the campus improvement plans,
Yes.
it took a while to download those. It would have been helpful for us because I haven't really had time to go through a lot of those over the last 2 days that we've had access to them, and there's 73 of them, as you know. But I know in our TIPs, we get pretty prescriptive on the strategies in the effective school framework. Hold on, I got 2 computers going here. There are essential actions under each one. Some of them only have 1 essential action, but 5 has 3 essential actions. And for the longest time, we used to really focus on just starting with the basics of 5.3 DDI, data-driven instruction. Is there a reason why in the campus improvement plans, they just talk about, oh, we're going to do lever 5 in general. So what in lever 5 are they really focusing on? It would have been nice to get more detail there.
Okay, so a couple of things. I think some of them have deeper strategies than others. We're looking at, okay, oh, sorry. Is that better? Okay. Some of our campuses have more of the strategies developed than others. I think what's most important and may speak to what you're asking about, Trustee Wilbanks, is they also have, and it's connected to it, they have what we call a playbook. So, for instance, each of our campuses will have DDI strategies embedded into that about how they're putting those practices in at their campus. And that's a real living document that the executive directors and working with the principals reference on an ongoing basis, and something that they make routine updates. That's kind of like on the other side of the alignment of what we were talking about. That feeds into the campus improvement plan that comes back to the district improvement plan. So a lot more details would be embedded into that actual document.
Yeah, so the one thing, my one big criticism of the campus improvement plans is, in order to set objectives, you got to do your needs assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the needs assessments in the plans I was able to go through were very, very, very thin. There was no need there. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of hard to figure out, well, okay, these objectives make sense given the needs assessment, because a lot of times there was zero provided in terms of information we could derive or measure whether a given objective was appropriate or not. Yeah. So, my big request going forward is, number one, this is a lot of data. So as a trustee, it would be helpful to have this more than a week beforehand so we can have time to dig in. And number two, I'm just a little disappointed in the amount of meat in terms of the analysis that goes into determining the objectives. So if we can beef up that project process, and I don't know if that means kind of unpacking that sooner for these campuses and working or helping them document that process. Because in your presentation, you did a good job of describing the process. So I don't doubt that it happened.
Yeah.
I trust that it happened. It's just, it would have been nice to see the result of that needs assessment.
Sure. I understand what you're saying, having, looked at many of them. And that's certainly something that we can take back as we're reviewing those plans. I think it's exactly what you just said. We had probably a more robust process this year than we've ever had with taking our campuses through an actual needs assessment, and not just having the principals, but they were there with their instructional leadership team members. So I think the gap is probably in the documentation of that, because we even in a support to the principals provided that data. When they showed up to the workshop, we were able to give them their data disaggregated for their campus, and then walk them step by step through that needs analysis. And probably it got lost in the translation of bringing it back to the SIP document. But that's good feedback, and we'll certainly take that under advisement. And as our executive directors work with the campuses, we'll look to put more in there.
So to close out, can I give you guys some kudos, or our whole district? Looking at our district improvement plan, I meant to mention this earlier, looking at last year's district improvement plan and what our goals were. In fact, where's my document? So like, for instance, on CCMR, our goal was to get to 67%. And there were a lot of changes in this year's STAR. And so in this DIP, our goal is to go from 78%. So I assume our result, given the increased rigor of this year's STAR, is we blew it out of the water in terms of what our goal was for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and our goal is
So
to get to
at 78%, yeah, given that we were only expected to get to 67%, but on all of the other measures, it was a very difficult year because of the massive overhaul of the STAR. I still think we've done an admirable job in terms of where we ended up, given where our goals were in last year's DIP. But it's kind of unfair to change the rules of the game halfway through and not giving us that ability to do that longitudinal measure of progress, because we're comparing apples to oranges now. So, but, you know, I have no doubt that we made great strides last year in what we ended up with the results. I have no doubt that our students have increased learning and continue to recover from the ill effects of COVID. So thanks to everyone who worked hard to make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbanks. Ms. McMurrow?
Thank you, President Fowler. Thank you, Dr. Buell. I do have one brief question, and then if there's no other discussion, I would like to make a motion. My question is about leadership changes. So I know that every year our CIPs and our DIP are due on a certain date. Mm-hmm. If there's a change in leadership, would the new principal assume any autonomy in their CIP at the time of employment, or would they have to wait until the following year and be able to establish a new CIP? Because I know the executive director works in tandem with the principal, but what if there's a change in leadership?
Absolutely, and that's actually part of the onboarding process. It's one of the things that our executive directors will do, is as far as orienting a new principal to a campus. They'll go back, in fact, it's actually part of the interview process, but they'll go and look at the campus improvement plan. They'll come up with what are some strategies. It should be a living, working document throughout the year. If you realize that the car is off of the road, get it back on the road and get it moving forward. And so those are the checks that we should be doing throughout the year to look for evidence that it's working. And I would tell a principal that was sitting in a position, if it's not working and a change needs to be made, let's make that change, certainly in collaboration with your instructional leadership team, your site-based decision-making team, and push yourself. Don't just change it to change it, but push yourself. Why is it not working? Are we implementing an effective strategy? If not, let's do something different. So principals have a big load with that, but we would absolutely want a new principal to come in and be able to work with their staff to be able to do that. You know, I can't answer it just one way, because sometimes, like with Ms. Minyard earlier, I think it was a couple of days before school started, and so, you know, they hit it in different cycles, but our executive directors are just really good at partnering with our principals as they transition and help them to come on board, because you're right, that's important to get that buy-in.
That makes sense, and you brought up a good point too. The site-based decision-making committees of every campus have a say in each CIP, and that includes stakeholders and they include parents and teachers and multiple people who care about the school.
Yes.
And so, thank you for reminding me of that. And President Fowler, I'm not sure if there's any other discussion, any other questions, but I've got a motion. I move to approve the campus performance objectives and district scorecard as they were presented.
Thank you, Ms. McMurrow. I have a motion from Ms. McMurrow. Do I have a second? I have a second from Ms. Haynes. Please vote.
Aaron Reich, I vote yes.
Brooklyn Richardson, I vote yes.
Sarah McMurrow, I vote yes.
Justin Chop, I vote yes.
Leanne Haynes, I vote yes.
Mr. Wilbanks?
David Wilbanks, I vote yes.
Melody Fowler, I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is discussion item, financial update. Dr. Wertz?
Thank you, President Fowler. As we do periodically, tonight we bring to the board a financial update for the 23-24 school year. Mrs. Martin is here this evening to present the update. Mrs. Martin.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Wertz. Good evening, President Fowler, members of the board. So we'll be doing our monthly financial update today. First, these are the items in the board financials. These are our regular periodic items that we're taking, usually on a monthly basis. We do have donations, some bids, purchases over $50,000, the tax roll beginning tax roll summary, our monthly budget amendment, our financial report, and the investment report. At this time, we did want to give you an update on our fiscal year 2023 close. We will be taking the final financial audit in our board meeting in November 16. But these are what they're looking right now. And I wanted to just give you a side-by-side of the information we gave you at the end of June and what the most likely ending numbers are looking like. So there are some changes in some of the estimates that we provided to you back in June. And as you can see on there, it's we have $3 million more in revenue and $12 million less in expenditures, with a $16 million increase that we're looking at for fund balance. So a big part of those changes is that we are getting $4 million more in tax collections and state revenue, and then because of that ESSER supplant we did at the end of the year, then additional in ESSER indirect costs, and then TRS on behalf was adjusted for that year. This is a book entry that we do based on the salaries that was that we incurred for the year. This is an entry that we do for the state. So you see it affected both of our revenue and expenditure side. Now on the expenditures, we did have $3 million additional in vacancy savings. There are $4 million additional unspent campus and departmental funds, and then $2 million in additional other payroll or benefit accounts. I also wanted to share with you what the general fund budget projections look like without that ESSER impact, because we did have a lot of items affecting us from ESSER. And so with it right now, it is looking like that without, what does the general operating fund look like without the ESSER additional funds and supplanting? And it would be that we would end with a $2 million excess. And just as a reminder, this is the breakdown of the ESSER impact for 22-23. The ESSER indirect costs did go up by that $2 million I mentioned earlier. And then we had the $14 million that we supplanted to close out ESSER 2. And then at the end, that $20 million supplanted in ESSER 3 for a total $41.8 million. Since we have our estimates of how the year is going to end, I just wanted to take this time to remind you what fund balance is going to look like. There are different components of fund balance. As you can see, there's the non-spendable, so that's typically our inventory and prepaid items. Then there's restricted, and that's pretty much usually like with a law or an agreement that we have. Committed is something that the board has previously taken action on. And then assigned, it does not require specific board action, but it is set aside for specific purposes. So at the end of fiscal year 2022, so beginning 2023, our fund balance was $296 million, and it's broken up into these components that I mentioned earlier. We had, with the fiscal year 23, we have a net change of $27 million decrease to fund balance. Just to remind you that we did transfer that $53 million from fiscal year 22 excess to our capital projects fund to supplement the Bond 2019 program. But we are looking at, there's an increase in inventory and prepaids. And then we are changing the assigned. There's that $53 million decrease. But then because our salaries have gone up, expenses have gone up, we've decided to increase just the cash flow purposes for July and August. And then because we are adding into fund balance, that another increase to the universal pre-K assignment. And then the remaining amount would be increasing our unassigned fund balance. So this would give us an ending fund balance of $268 million. And this is in comparison to the 23-24 budget. We like to compare and make sure that you have enough to cover your operating costs until we start receiving revenue from the state and our property taxes. And so right now it is looking that unassigned is about 28%. Currently, our policy is at 16%, but that hasn't, we are looking at getting that updated, because if you remember from the first presentation I did a month ago, there is an indicator where the state, the indicator is based on 75 days of operating costs, which is closer to about 3 months or 25%. So we're at that 28%, so slightly over. Okay. Now to give you a fiscal year 23-24 update, in your board packet, we do have a budget amendment. And that budget amendment includes some cross-functional changes and some increases to our expenditure budget, mostly for an increase in the City of Arlington SRO contract. And then also we have our property insurance RFP that was put out and is also in your board packet for approval. And there was an increase based on the estimate that we experienced, based on what we received. There are no changes to the debt service fund, only cross-functional changes to the child nutrition fund. And then for the capital projects fund is a cross-functional change. And then an expenditure increase for some autonomous robot machines and vacuums that are being purchased by our custodial department. Okay. Also for our ESSER update, as you can see, we have closed out our ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 grants, and we have our ESSER 3 grant remaining. Okay. And then for Bond 2019, this as of August 31, 2023, this does reflect the bond issuance that we did in July that closed in August. So there is still about 163 million remaining of what's been authorized and has not yet been issued. But you can see where our revenue is standing, the status of our expenditures. We do have $194 million of projects in process at that moment, with 303 million remaining. But those, again, this is back in August, so there's been some projects that have kicked off since then. So that concludes my update for this month. Do you have any questions?
Do I have any trustees with questions or comments? No? Oh, Mr. Chapa?
Thank you, President Fowler. Ms. Martin, I just wanted to say that I appreciate this presentation because it shows that the path that we sort of staked out at the beginning of the year of taking a different approach to not having those wild swings from year to year, and also at the same time trying to deal with the wind down of ESSER. It looks like that's on track, and then I'm really glad to see that it looks like we're now projecting a surplus even without ESSER funds.
Yes.
And I noticed that the projections on expenditures has gone down too, which I think reflects some really good and aggressive work with your department in HR holding the line on the attrition and backfilling those positions because it could be potentially painful if we waited too long to deal with the end of ESSER. So thank you for that, and I just wanted to point out that those two things were in this presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Trustees, are there any requests for items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion? I have a motion from Ms. Richardson. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Ms. McMurrow. Please vote.
Aaron Reich, I vote yes.
Brooklyn Richardson, I vote yes.
Sarah McMurrow, I vote yes.
Justin Chapa, I vote yes.
Leanne Haynes, I vote yes.
David Wilbanks, I vote yes.
Melody Fowler, I vote yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the continuation discussion item. Dr. Wertz?
Thank you, President Fowler. Tonight, Dr. Buell's back to the podium, and she'll be sharing an update on the beginning of the year screener results for both reading and math. Dr. Buell.
Good evening again, President Fowler, members of the board, and Dr. Wertz. I'm here tonight to talk about our House Bill 3 progress monitoring and our beginning of the year screener update. So get ready. I think I have some good news. Happy to share this. So our House Bill 3 goal progress, the presentation is going to focus on that beginning of the year performance on screeners compared to our adopted HB3 goals in the areas of early literacy and reading, and then also early numeracy and math. So we're really talking about our pre-K to 2. See if I can get it. All right, we'll start with our early literacy pre-K4 reading. And our students, for the beginning of the year, they take the Circle Progress Monitoring. So I'm not going to read all of this screen. All of them will be very similar, so I want to orient them, you to them. So for the beginning of the year reading composite for our pre-K4 students on the Circle test, the goal is to increase the percentage of pre-K4 students who are on track from 74 to 75% by August of 2024. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the percent of students that are on track at 48% and those that need support at 52%. Looking over to the right, you notice that last year when our pre-K students did their beginning of the year screener, they were at 41%, and we're at 48% this year. So I think that's also representation of kind of how our students are recovering from that COVID. These were some of our littles that were in pre-K during that time. Over on the top right-hand side, you'll notice the composite. So for 2022, end of year in the dark blue, they were at a 64%. In 2023, at the end of the year, it was 74%. For the beginning of the year in 2024, we are at 48%, and our goal is to get to 75%. And so next we'll take a look at our kindergarten through second grade. So where our pre-K takes the Circle screener, our kinder through second grade students for reading take the M class. The results include the students that are assessed in both the M-Class English and the M-Class Lectura. And then our student performance for this test are categorized into 4 vendor-provided and color-coded categories. So you'll see the well below, below, at benchmark, and above benchmark as we move through these next slides. So for kindergarten, again, our goal is to increase the percentage of kindergarten students who score at or above benchmark from 63 to 68% by August of 2024. For our beginning of the year screener, we had 57% of our students that were at or above benchmark. Compared to last year, we had 48% at the beginning of the year. I think we're seeing evidence there, just like we talked about in our last board meeting, that our pre-K programming is really having an impact on our students. So I think that's something to really shout out and celebrate. At the end of the year in 2023 on the M-Class Composite, our students were at 63%. And this cohort of students, as they start the beginning of the year, are at 57%, and our goal is for them to get to 68% by the end of the year. Here's another way to look at that data in a graph form that just shows you the percent of students at each of the levels. And then again, knowing that it's critically important that especially as we're analyzing this data at the campus level, that we're breaking that down into the demographic categories to make sure that we're supporting all of our learners in a way that closes that achievement gap and moves them forward towards their individual goals. So that's something that we really pay close attention to as well. For M-Class first grade, we have 48% of our students that are at or above benchmark at the beginning of the year. Last year, at the end of the year, they were at 61%. They're starting this year at 48%, and our goal this year is for our first graders to have an overall composite score of 67%. So again, our first graders are coming in stronger than they did last year in kindergarten at the beginning of the year. And so again, you're going to see the composite score, and it's broken down by each of the areas of performance. And then again, broken down by the demographic categories so that we have goals for each one of those categories, and that's what we'll progress monitor towards that goal. Our campuses do that, and we also have a district level cross-department committee. In fact, we just met this week and had a very productive meeting to look at the district trends. What are the district implications? What do we need to do in terms of providing resources, professional learning? How does it align with our curriculum? Are there changes we need to make there? So that was a really insightful meeting this week, and we will continue that process at the district level as well as we go throughout the year. So in class second grade, we have 50% of our students at or above benchmark, compared to at the beginning of last year, there were 44%. And so again, on the composite for the second grade M class, our goal for the end of the year is 64%. We have a breakdown again of the performance levels that you're able to see on the presentation, as well as the breakdown in our demographic categories. Now we're going to switch from reading to, went too far, to numeracy for pre-K for math. Again, our pre-K students for both math and reading use the Circle Progress monitoring. So the students that are in pre-K right now, in pre-K 4, 87% of those students are on track. And we have a goal at the end of the year to be at 88%. Last year at the beginning of the year, our pre-K students that came in were at 83%. And this year, this different cohort, but we're at 87%. And again, we have the breakdown for our pre-K students on their goals based on the demographic categories that we'll monitor. For our beginning of the year math screener for our kindergarten through second grade, we use the NWEA map as a screener to assess their performance. NWEA map, just to make it difficult for y'all, we're going to switch the color coding, and so we've provided that here for you. But the NWEA map measures student achievement using the RIT score, and it's classified into low, low average, average, and high. And again, with their own unique color coding. But I'll tell you, these technology tools really are helpful for our teachers. They generate a lot of reports. So I remember the days of having to sit and hand do this sort of stuff. Now it really is at their fingertips. So one of our support strategies this year is to really help our instructional coaches, our principals, our teachers understand how to leverage this in order to make it easier to identify the areas that they need to work on. So for our NWEA map for our kindergartners, 73% of them were above average or average. And last year, there were 64% of those students. And so our goal this year is to get to 69. And you can see that we've actually already exceeded that goal. But we won't stop there. We want to ensure all of our students continue to learn. But I think that's a real celebration and speaks to the experiences that our students are bringing to kindergarten, like we know, as a result of their learning in pre-K. So we're super excited about that. So again, we break down the NWEA map into the high, average, low average, and low, so that you can see the percent of the students in each of those categories. And then again, by demographic category. And then in first grade, we had 59% of our students average or above on the beginning of the year assessment. And our goal is to get to 66%. So our students on the beginning of the year assessment this year were already higher than the end of the year composite for the students. Different cohort, but coming out of last year. And again, our overall results in a chart form so that you're able to view those. And by demographic category. And we'll continue to look at this again at our middle of the year and our end of the year assessment. So for second grade, Our goal is to increase the percentage of second grade students who achieve average or above from 41% to 57% by August of 2024. Right now, we have 50% of our students at average or above. Our goal, again, is to get to 57. So you can see that this year's cohort of students at their beginning of the year already exceeded the end of the year for last year. So, and again, for our second grade, and our demographic categories as well for second grade. I know I went through that really quick, but I'm welcome any questions that you may have.
Are there any trustees with questions or comments? Dr. Reich?
I thank you for the presentation. I appreciated the pace myself, and I don't have any questions, just looking forward to continued upward trajectory. Very, very great news that you're sharing at this beginning stage. Thank you very much.
We're
Appreciate it.
excited. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. It's obvious that our students are learning, they're achieving, and they're moving those scores up. And I have to believe that pre-K is making the difference for us, because I think we've seen huge trajectory movement since we've started our pre-K program. And I think we should all be very proud and celebrate. And those teachers are working hard.
Yes.
They're working hard every day to get those students to where they need to be. Thank you, Dr. Buell. We appreciate you. Oh, Mr. Wilbanks? Go ahead, Mr. Wilbanks. You're on mute.
Thank you, President Fowler. And again, thank you, Dr. Buell. I'll repeat my comment and the kudos I gave you in the last presentation. It is clear that we are making a difference and students are achieving. And when I look at the beginning of year delta from this year to last year, in most cases, that delta, if it consists throughout the middle of the year and into the end of the year, we're going to have no problem meeting any of our goals. And it is clear that kindergarten is making a big difference. I do have a question about second grade.
Okay.
And when I look at the second grade numeracy, I didn't see that it was the same on, give me 1 second here,
Okay.
on the literacy. No, it's not quite the same, but I was just curious, the scale looks pretty flat last year. Our beginning of the year to the end of the year results versus all the other results that you presented. There wasn't a lot of gain from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So did we do a root cause on why that was on this particular grade? Same thing for fourth grade, I believe. Actually, I'll take that back. Pre-K through 4. Yeah, it just seems like in the, hold on. I was looking at the wrong page. So yeah, in particular on the NWA map, second grade, there wasn't a lot of gain over there was a 1 percentage point gain. In fact, from the middle of the year to the end of the year, we went down a percentage point last year. Now we've got a great delta beginning of the year, this year versus last year at 10%. But did we do a root cause on why last year was so flat? And are we making adjustments to counteract that root cause analysis?
I would need to dig into that even further before I answered that completely. But what I will tell you, one of the things that we identified that we really needed to do a better job of this year was really focus on the implementation of the screener. Training our teachers, letting them really have an idea of what the assessment is, what's involved with that, how are we administering it with fidelity, how are they using the resources there to be able to align the instruction to it, which is one of the reasons that we've established the district level committee this year, so that we can make sure that we're providing that for teachers as we move forward. So I can dig into that further. Part of what I know we need to do is to really focus on the implementation of the actual screener itself and aligning the instruction to the results that we're getting. And I think as we're moving into another year of using this with our students, our teachers become more familiar with it, and that naturally becomes something that they're doing. But even our executive directors are involved in our district level meetings, and so they're able to also understand this and take this back so that our principals know how to use this data. And I think we're going to see some increases just because of the alignment of instruction and the use of that data. It's a good question. We'll continue to keep our eye on that. I'll take that back to the committee when we meet again too, and we'll dig a little bit deeper in that.
My own anecdotal experiences with some teachers around the district, and these are top teachers, right, at some really top schools. It seems like there was a resistance because it was something new. And I'm like, oh my, like, wait a minute, NWA map is awesome. I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about it, and actually seen a demo of it and how it can, like you said, really make the life of the teacher so much easier in terms of identifying and doing small group, clusters for small groups for interventions and just the data. And then, as a board member, I like it because it was highly predictive of STAR results before the STAR redesign. But anyway, so yeah, no, I wouldn't doubt that. I think that since it was new, that there was maybe not really being used correctly by every teacher. Right. And so hopefully that is the count for most of those kind of flat results that we saw there from last year.
Yeah, we're hoping so. And we're providing ongoing professional development. So I would expect to see increases in that, but it's certainly something that we will continue to monitor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbanks. Thank you so much, Dr. Buell.
Yes.
I think we can celebrate our teachers and our students. I think this is all good news and shows that we're doing positive things in the classroom. Thank you so much for this information.
Thank you. Definitely proud of it.
Thank you. We now move to discussion item C, elementary special program update. Dr. Wertz?
Thank you, President Fowler. So tonight, you get to hear a debut presentation from Dr. Tamala Horton. She is our Executive Director of Transformational Learning, and if you've been around the system for a while, she has been leading our special programs, our area of special programs development now for, gosh, I want to say close to 10 years. It feels like we've been working together for a long time. Yes. So I thought it would be great to have a new face doing some presentations tonight, and so she's here tonight to give you all an update about our elementary special programs and to answer some questions. So Dr. Horton, welcome. All the principals.
Thank you, Dr. Works. President Fowler, members of the board, and Dr. Works, thank you for your time this evening. As Dr. Works shared, I am here to give you an update on our elementary specialized programs. But before I begin, I do want to acknowledge the principals who are here with us this evening. We have Katushka Herodor, principal of Jones Fatal. She has her assistant principal, Ms. Alonzo, here with her. We have Cynthia Anthony, principal of Corey Fine Arts and Dual Language. We have Lisnell Gonzalez. And we have Sarah Brooks, I'm sorry I didn't tell your campus, Crow Leadership Academy, and Sarah Brooks, Piercy STEM Elementary. So our specialized programs really give our students opportunities to pursue their passion and to create individual pathways to college and career readiness. And right now we have 5 elementary specialized programs: Corey Academy, Jones Academy, Piercy STEM Academy, Wimbish World Language Academy, and Crow Leadership Academy. We're going to begin our update this evening with the Fine Arts Dual Language Academies. Our Fine Arts Dual Language Academies were our very first. They're very unique, not only across the state, but across the nation. They immerse students in dual language programming and fine arts integration every day. Our dual language program is a two-way dual language program. It is a 50-50 model, which means our students are participating in 50% of the content in Spanish and 50% of the content in English. In our fine arts integration, our students are able to participate in both the performing arts and the visual arts. We're going to begin with Corey Fine Arts and Dual Language Academy. We have the campus current demographics here. They currently have 491 students. You can see that they serve a diverse population of subgroups and students. They have 28% economically disadvantaged students and 18% emergent bilingual students. Corey has a lot to celebrate. They celebrate their high level of community and family involvement. Currently, there are 280 members in the PTA, and the PTA has won numerous awards. I am not going to call them all out. Just a few examples are the Head Start Award, the Golden Apple Award, and the National School of Excellence. Their students also participate in the Texas PTA Arts Reflective Contest, and students have won the 5th grade award for intermediate music composition and 3rd grade award for intermediate photography. They're also proud of their finance program, and they perform across the state. They have been invited to participate at the 2023 TMEA, and they have also participated in the Dallas Zoo, performed there, and also at the Arlington Expo. They're really proud of their arts integration and the experiential learning experiences that students have. Through our arts integration, our teachers are able to look at the art standards and integrate that into the core content. And so now when our students are demonstrating learning in the core, they are able to demonstrate it through a variety of fine arts hands-on experiences, such as performances and creation of songs and musicals, and maybe even creating a video in the green room that's on the campus. So they're super proud of the arts integration and the impact that it's having on student outcomes. We also have a specialized Spanish language and culture class that has been created by our World Language Department here in Arlington ISD. And this gives our students more exposure and engagement in language, literacy, and culture. And because of the deep Spanish immersion processes and learning experiences at this campus, when students are transitioning to Corey, from Corey to Jones, approximately 85% are testing into Spanish 3 and Spanish 3 Advanced. So these are huge celebrations for this campus. Corey is focusing this year on individual student growth for all students. They are working to maintain their high levels of academic achievement and ensure that they're providing student learning experiences that allow students to grow in every subject that is tested on our state assessments. They're also focusing on Spanish language proficiency. They're working to ensure that the learning experience is creating biliterate students who are able to express their ideas through reading, writing, listening, and speaking. We'll next look at Jones Fine Arts Dual Language Academy. We have their demographics here. They have currently 435 students. You see diversity in their student subgroups, and they have 49% economically disadvantaged and 29% emergent bilingual students. As with Corey, Jones celebrates high level of family involvement. Again, they have 385 members in their PTA. They have won numerous awards. Again, not going to tell them all, it would take all night. But examples are Early Bird Award and the Grandparents Award. Their students also participate in the Texas PTA Arts Reflective Contest, and 2 of their students received overall awards of excellence in arts and dance choreography. They also have a dance club and monthly activities for families. Jones is really, really proud of the work that they've done with the A+ arts integration to infuse those culturally relevant experiences into the learning. As we know, with our dual language program, that cross-culture competency is a huge piece, and Jones is really working hard to ensure that they build this with our students as they're integrating the arts into the core. They also have the Spanish language, the specialized Spanish language course designed by our Word Language Department. And because of the deep immersion of Spanish experiencing, 85% of Jones graduates are also testing into Spanish 3 and Spanish 3 Advanced at Gunn Junior High. At Jones, they are focusing on individual growth again and goal setting with students. They're really working to ensure that students are empowered to own their learning, and teachers are having those conversations so that students are able to progress monitor and track where they are in their learning. They're working on improving science performance by increasing the number of hands-on science experiences occurring at the campus this year. And to increase that language proficiency, they're working on infusing more instructional scaffolding techniques such as bridging and visuals and those structured academic conversations where students are able to get with their peers and practice their language skills and bounce ideas off each other and challenge each other around that language acquisition piece. The next school is Wimbish World Language Academy. At Wimbish World Language Academy, we also have a 2-way dual language program, again a 50-50 model, but we have 2 choices of language here, French and Spanish. The students are able to gain those cultural experiences in their daily instruction and cultural arts rotation. And through the FLES program, the students have 3 choices at that 3rd language, Mandarin, Spanish, or French. Here's Wimbish World Language demographics. We see lots of diversity in their student subgroups. They have 66% economically disadvantaged students and 44% emergent bilinguals. Wimbish is celebrating 5 big rocks. The first thing that they want to highlight is that their teachers represent the world. They're coming from places like the Republic of Congo, Panama, Colombia, and even China. Every summer, they host a summer cultural enrichment camp where students get experiences in arts, games, and learning in French and Spanish. And this past summer, 150 students participated in this camp. Wimbish has also been recognized by the French Consulate for French Education in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Wimbish volunteers have earned over 1,000 hours, and the campus hosts monthly family cultural and academic nights such as holidays around the world. And coming real soon, Wimbish will be receiving a garden from a grant from the Texas Health Resources and Atmos Energy in partnership with the Blue Zone Project, Made Green Garden Schools, and Arlington ISD. Their area of focus, they are really focusing on developing students' biliteracy in French and Spanish through implementation of the Spanish and French language arts curriculum and really focusing on the bridge portion of the instructional lesson. And in that bridge portion of the lesson, that's when the instructor is really guiding students to make connections between the content and language learned in one language to the other. They are also focused on integrating those meaningful cultural experiences into instruction and recruiting bilingual teachers, in particular French, and also increasing enrollment at the school, in particular in the French language pathway. For each of our dual language programs, we give students the STAMP Language Proficiency Assessment. This assessment is taken at the end of the school year for our first through fifth grade students, because ensuring that students have language proficiency is a high priority for these programs. To ensure that we're meeting our goal around language proficiency, the World Language Department has developed some continuous improvement strategies to enhance student outcomes. This slide here really goes over a few of the strategies that the World Language Department has come up with. They are writing specific Spanish language arts and French language arts curriculum for the academies and providing the aligned instructional resources to support our teachers in designing and delivering high-quality Tier 1 instruction. They are providing the academy teachers with training on language scaffolds to support them in ensuring language proficiency. And for the new academy teachers, they're providing ongoing coaching support to ensure that our new teachers have the knowledge and skills around language acquisition, around assessment, differentiation, and intervention. On the horizon, they're looking at developing a comprehensive professional learning plan for our dual language program teachers. And they're also looking at refinements to our current dual language model. In particular, they're looking at the language allocation plan, which tells us which content is taught in English, which content is taught in Spanish, and the amount of time that they're spending in each content. We know that we need more time for direct literacy instruction, and so they're looking at refining to build that additional time to focus on literacy. Next up is Crow Leadership Academy. Crow Leadership Academy implements the International Baccalaureate Primary Years Program, PYP, and it's providing our students with inquiry-based learning experiences that develop them to be curious, to reflect, and think critically about the world around them. A little bit about the PYP framework. As I shared, it is inquiry-based, it is cross-curriculum, and it is supposed to work and support students' conceptual understanding. It is focused on 3 pillars of school life: the learner, building student agency and owning their learning through providing voice and choice in learning; the learning environment, creating engaging and relevant and rigorous learning experiences that support students' learning of the content and their readiness to be productive citizens. And then the learner community is really about prioritizing all of the relationships: the students, the teachers, the staff, the community, the parents, and developing those nurturing and supportive relationships that help our students to thrive academically and socially. These are the demographics for Crow Leadership Academy. They have 495 students, 69% are economically disadvantaged, and 61% are emergent bilingual. They have 4 celebrations. The first thing they want to celebrate is at the campus, they work to develop cross-curricular lessons and units of inquiry. We have a PYP coordinator at Crow Leadership Academy, and this coordinator works day in and day out with our teachers, unpacking the TEKs and developing these lessons and units of inquiry. They're wanting to celebrate their growth in student agency. Teachers receive PYP training, and this training supports them with knowledge and skills around how to increase student voice, choice, and ownership of their learning. The IB Learner Profile contains 10 attributes, such as being knowledgeable, such as being caring, that IB believes supports students in being well-rounded citizens. And every 6 weeks, we look at 2 or 3 attributes from the profile, and students nominate their classmates who really model these attributes, and they're on the wall of fame at the school. And then the self-learning opportunities, the service learning opportunities is a big part of Crow Leadership Academy culture. And kids are self-selecting to serve here and get that experience at a young age in giving back to the community. The area of focus for Crow Leadership Academy, Their very big rock this year is really working on ensuring that they have high-quality Tier 1 instruction. So they're looking at those cross-curricular lessons that they've designed, those units that they've designed, and in the PLC, they're working to ensure that there is tight alignment between the written, the taught, and the assessed curriculum. They're also leveraging the PLC to progress monitor and have those data-driven instruction, those data-driven conversations, and then develop responses to the data. They're also working on using instructional strategies that support students in making cross-curricular connections, onboarding new staff and training them in IB practices, and then increasing the number of applicants into Crow Leadership Academy. Next up is Piercy STEM Academy. Piercy is a nationally certified STEM program. They are certified through the National Institute for Science Education. It was a year-long process. It was very rigorous. They had to identify a problem of practice, and then they had to engage in action research to come up strategies to solve the campus problem. A coach from NISD worked with them throughout the year and gave them observation and feedback. And then they also had to have a certain percentage of their teachers go through the training to become STEM certified with NISD. So they're really proud of that. And through all of this training, they have integrated STEM experiences into all content areas. And so our students are getting those technology-rich, hands-on, real-world experiences that's really accelerating their attainment of those future-ready skills, their understanding of complex concepts and ideas, and really providing a strong foundation that's going to prepare them for success, not only through their academic journey, but into the real world. Here are the demographics at Piercy STEM Academy. They have 536 students. You see the diversity in the student subgroups. They have 65% economically disadvantaged students and 26% emergent bilingual. Their celebrations, they are a Project Lead the Way launch campus. This curriculum provides hands-on experiences aligned to real-world issues. They received a 2-year GM STEM grant for $20,000, and through this grant, they were able to continue to infuse technology into the campus, technology such as 3D printers, robotics, computer coding through B-Bots, Makey, and Ozobots. They are proud that 58% of their teachers are currently working towards or have the STEM certification through NISD. And through that technology-rich, career-focused, real-world application student learning experiences, students are developing the 4 C's of STEM, which is collaboration and communication and critical thinking and creativity. And then they also want to highlight that our students at Piercy are also going on STEM field trips and making those real-world connections. Their area of focus is infusing writing and STEM into all subject areas to support students' readiness for success on the state assessments. And then they're working on their STEM showcase. Every student will be a part of a showcase club, and they will have a real-world problem that they're working on solving throughout the year. And they will showcase their results, the results of their problem solving and creativity at the Campus Expo, where our parents and our community and our future Eagles are invited to come and engage with them. And coming up next week, we have an opportunity to highlight all of our specialized programs at the Explore Arlington ISD on October 24th, and we invite everyone to come out and be a part of this. And that's the end of my presentation, and if you have any questions. I made it.
Ms. Richardson?
Thank you, Dr. Horton, for your presentation. I am so excited that we have so many schools of choice here in a public district where you can go and have everything from a leadership to a baccalaureate to a STEM academy to a fine arts to French and Spanish. We offer so many choices right here in our very own district. You highlighted this well.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you I'm partial.
Okay.
I am partial because I have a daughter who is in the 2nd cohort, and she is at Gunn Academy. And I have a son who is in 4th grade at Corey Academy. I am thankful to you as principals because I know what long days you have. Miss Anthony, I see you right there. Thank you for all you do and the fact that y'all have come tonight to show your support and how proud you are of your schools. I'm going to tell you a quick example that I have taken last year it was my daughter who was just completed 6th grade, my son who had just completed 3rd grade. We went to Mexico for a trip and we told them they could go shop for their souvenirs, but the deal was you had to speak Spanish. You could only speak Spanish to these vendors. We will pay for it, but you have to speak Spanish. They both ended up getting over 70% off of the original price because they spoke Spanish. And my daughter, who was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, was so proud of herself. And the man kept asking her, "Why do you speak this way? Why do you speak?" And she was able to say, "Because of my school." So to be able to be proud as a parent and say, I got to see this work. This is amazing. You are giving my children and so many other students life skills that won't just take them on new adventures and travel, but it's going to take them further in the job market. It is going to allow their education opportunities to grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
What that does make me think, though, is you have a parent like myself. I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak French. What are we doing to help these parents who do take advantage of these programs? What do we do to give them the tools to set them up for success at home?
So, that's a very good question. I don't have the answer to that right now, but I would definitely look into that and get that answer for you. So you're really wanting to know
Why don't we kick it to one
to-
of your
I was
principals?
wondering
How
if
about
I
Miss
wanted to do
Herodor?
that, yes.
Miss Herodor, you want to come share what you do to help your parents?
Come on up.
I will say, as she's coming to the podium, one of the things we do when we orient parents at the very beginning of this is we try to emphasize that we are teaching children language, we're actually not teaching
Correct.
adults. So one of the things we always make sure parents know on the upfront is you're not going to get homework in both languages so you can look at it in English because it actually handicaps the development of the language. But we do want parents to be involved, even though we know that their kids are learning languages that they particularly can't understand. So Ms. Herodor, why don't you give some examples of how you do that?
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. And thank you for highlighting the importance and the proud, moments that you can have when you have a child experiencing language learning. And Dr. Works is correct. We're in the business of kids, and we welcome the parents to support the language learning process by making sure that you're encouraging them to use a language like you did with the vendors in Mexico, but also to emphasize the language of the home. Because the cross-linguistic transfer process starts at home. That's how they learn the language, the first maternal language at home. So if you're reading at home, if you're asking questions and you're engaging in the native language that they have, that's going to help with the language acquisition process. But things that we try to provide are reference materials and resources in both languages, so you can make those connections. But I really think in the home, it's really about supporting the language process and encouraging them, because it gets hard. And as y'all probably know, it takes 5 to 7 years to develop fully in an academic language, in the second language. So when it gets hard, let's build that resiliency and support them in that way. That's how parents can best support kids that are learning a second or a third language.
Google Translate has been my best
You know what?
friend.
And they've come a long way.
And let me tell you, advanced 7th grade science is hard in
Yeah.
Spanish, you guys.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do wonder is as our children are going through this program, and Dr. Horton, this may be more for you.
Thank you.
Because we didn't have a curriculum in the beginning for these dual language programs, and we've had to develop it on our own. Do we have software and technology that we are giving to the schools that now the students can use and practice it on their own? Because they need to have that practice that they're able. And I'm not talking about Duolingo that you can get an app and do it. What do we have as a district that we are giving to these students to support them outside of the classroom?
So I would say, imagine Espanol. I'm calling on a friend here.
You're allowed to phone a friend. It's
I'm
okay.
phoning a friend. Come on up here.
And Dr. Horton, I ask these questions not
these
as
are
a parent,
excellent.
but as these are questions that I am asked, and I say, just because I have a kid in it, I don't know. Let's find out the answer together.
I love it.
It's great. Imagine Espanol is a great app that's actually connected to Imagine Math that y'all learned about. That's connected to NWA Map. So there's a platform called Imagine Espanol that does allow them to practice in reading and writing. Well, not as much writing, but some, and listening and speaking. And that is available on their Rapid ID for your kids that can be used. And that's something that we're encouraging for home and language use. Also, I failed to mention earlier, there are a lot of books now in the library and digital libraries that are side by side for English and Spanish that helps with that cross-linguistic transfer as well. But Imagine Espanol has been a great friend of ours.
Okay. Thank you for the update. Thank you, Dr. Horton, and thank you, principals, for being here. We appreciate each of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Chapa?
Thank you, President Fowler. I have some questions about, some of them are about different schools. So I'll start with the fact that one of the things that I really liked about our model for Corey and Jones, and ended up using also at Wimbish, is that the idea is it pulls students from across the district to these campuses. They don't have neighborhood boundaries, and we've got a sort of a mixed model with Piercy and Crow. But is that goal at, or is that panning out at Corey, Jones, and Wimbish, that we see the students coming from not just what used to be the Corey attendance zone or the Rockmore, now Jones attendance zone? How's that looking?
It is definitely panning out. Those are our two most competitive campuses, and parents are applying from all over the district to be a part of those programs. So our vision of allowing students to experience learning in other geographical areas, it is working for those programs.
That's great, because I think, it's easy. I think folks love neighborhood schools because it's your neighborhood school and it's close by. But, we have lots of different neighborhoods in Arlington, and it's real easy to get, that you just have that sort of insular experience of being in your neighborhood. And I think that's a real positive of these programs, is the opportunity to go to school with kids from different parts of town. I noticed that the enrollment is a little lower at Wimbish. Is that because, are we seeing sort of have we met the demand for folks who want dual language instruction, and sort of that's just Wimbish came in the dual language programs, it became last, and so we topped off Corey and Jones, and Wimbish is just sort of, they've got the leftover demand? Or what do you think's going on there with Wimbish, and it's not really
So I would
growing
say
the same trajectory?
Because we've actually been working with the principal on that exact same question, because there still is a demand out there. I think as a district, we can really support that campus with more recruitment and with more marketing. And we have been working with the communications department to really highlight the strength of that program and get more interest into it, because a lot of our parents are just really not fully aware of any of our options. So just really doing a better job of recruitment and marketing, I believe, will get her numbers up. But that is actually something that we're working on literally this week as we're going into Explore Arlington ISD. How can we really market that? I mean, because that's a jewel over there. So how can we get those numbers up?
Yeah, I've been to a couple events at Wimbish. The folks that I know there just love it. They've got a great community there. Their Hispanic Heritage Celebration was a lot of fun. And one of the only chances you'll ever see me in a picture dancing. Willingly. Is the same dynamic there at Wimbish developing as Corey and Jones of folks coming in from across the district there, or is it still primarily drawing from what used to be the Wimbish boundary?
We do see that one having more of a neighborhood feel. So that's really where that marketing is going to come in, so that we can raise awareness across the district of this program and get more students from across the district interested in attending the campus.
When we first created Wimbish, part of the strategy was also designed to help relieve some of the overcrowding that was at the time at Webb and Spear. And so it kind of initiated with the idea that it would feed some of the need that was within that kind of part of town. And now as those cohort of students are now moving on to junior high and there's more room for more transfers to come in, we just haven't seen the response like we did primarily at Corey and Jones. So to her point, there's an opportunity to really dive into marketing and helping people really see the opportunity that's there, particularly in the French track. That's the one that's struggling the most in terms of growth. There's opportunities for French, but usually when we're finding there's more interest on the Spanish side than the French in terms of enrollment. Yeah.
Okay. And I know that program at Wimbish it's a K through 6 model currently. It's not like Corey Jones that's a K through 12 experience. Is there anticipation that if the numbers at Wimbish don't grow, that the Spanish speakers at Wimbish will at least have the opportunity to transfer into Gunn? Because I can imagine some people who go to that, they may just want to go on to, I think it feeds into Shackelford, and take advantage of other language opportunities that might exist. But there might be some folks who, they want the full immersion experience all the way up through 12, even though that's maybe not what they wanted when they enrolled their student in kindergarten. So is there opportunity for that?
So really with our Gun Academy, if they have openings, anyone that would meet the criteria as far as having the experience in language or in the arts, if they can meet those criteria, they have an opportunity to go there. So we really see that for our students as they're progressing through the language, they should have the skill set to be able to go there if they apply and if Gun has room in that cohort of students.
Okay. And so I'll transition just more to Crow and Piercy now because they're the neighborhood schools, but they have the academy around them. Are we seeing applicants coming into those neighborhood schools for those special programs? I noticed that one of Crow's goals is to increase applications. Is that a struggle for both Piercy and Crow, or just more Crow?
So I would say really for both of those schools, because they have a feeder pattern, they are really here lately filling up with zoned kids and don't have as many slots in the application process. But as we're looking at the number of slots that they do have, we're really working with them again on marketing to ensure that people are aware that, yes, this is a specialized program, even though it has a zone. They do have slots available, and we do want to fill them up if there's interest there.
Okay, so both schools, from what I'm understanding, if I'm understanding what you're saying, both schools have unfilled seats for the special programs.
Yes, but not a lot, not a lot.
Okay. And that it would include Crow?
Yes.
Okay. What are some, what do you think the reasons for that might be?
I would go back to, again, awareness. We really just have to do a better job of not just marketing this at a one-day event like the Explore Arlington ISD, but really marketing throughout the year. And I have been working with Anita and her team. They are fabulous, and they've got some great ideas, and they're really ready to run and do this. But how can we get this out into the community so they are aware of what's there and also aware of our application timeline, because that is also an area of opportunity, because we have a lot of parents that may come after the application process is over and they're like, I wasn't even aware that there was even an application going on. So just really raising awareness and that marketing and that communication, I really believe is going to help those two campuses as well.
One thing I will say too is the dynamic at those two campuses is also a challenge. So even when people know about it, the difference with Corey and Jones, for example, is you start at a very specific point. You're entering in a kindergarten, you work your way through. Most people don't apply to go to Corey and Jones to fill in a spot up in the upper grades, although there are kids that will come in. Those are a lot fewer than the group of kids that come in the initial cohort. Because these are neighborhood schools, there is no start at first grade or start at kindergarten. You have to find a spot at any of the spots that are vacant if there are one. And sometimes that's an obstacle for families who want to have all their kids in one school. It's also the challenge, obviously, in Corey and Jones. There's no guarantee that because you have a sibling, your other sibling's going to be there, but that does happen. Whereas if there's a vacancy in first grade, but you have a first, third, and a fifth grader, and you want them to all be at Piercy, but there's no room in the fifth grade, that also can create some sort of obstacle. The other thing too is the way our application process is designed is when you apply, you can pick your first, second, and third choice. So the order you want to kind of be thought about, and sometimes you end up getting one of your upper choices in lieu of the one that you would have gone in the lower one, and if that happens to be a Piercy or a Crow, that kind of also creates some obstacles. So I think there's just some dynamics in the way that we admit students into the other grade, like in Corey and Jones, that do not exist in Piercy and Crow, which also exacerbate the issue if they do have like spots here or there. Yeah.
Okay. And what does the application trend line look like overall between all 5 programs? Are we getting more applications over time? It's staying fairly static. What are we seeing there?
Just thinking about that and looking at our numbers from last year, I would say that we're really getting good numbers as far as applications. We saw when we were going through COVID, we saw just a little bit of stagnation, but it's trending back up. For example, our Explore AISD program, we've already got approximately 400 families registered, and that's more than we had this time last year. So we're
great.
anticipating that we're going to have more applications for all of our programs.
That's great. So I think wrapping up, what are some of the maybe challenges y'all are experiencing that were unanticipated as we embarked on this path to having specialized programs?
I am thinking. Our elementary programs have been in the system for quite a while. So I would just say at the elementary level is just keeping the quality of the program up. So continuing to work with the principals to ensure that they have the instructional resources that they need, that they have the support that they need with parent engagement, and just keep up that level of quality so we can continue to have people coming into the program. I would say marketing, continuous marketing, and not just at a certain point of the year, is definitely an area of opportunity for us as well, and Anita and I are working through that. I would say those are probably our 2 biggest challenges right now, because our elementary programs have been in the system for quite a while now. Is just maintaining that high quality and marketing.
One thing I will add is it's being agile to the to the needs of the kids as they're going through the program to make sure they're meeting the program objectives. So I'll give you an example. One of the ways we pivoted even at Jones and Corey Academy, which is when we started looking at our data, we realized that kids were learning the academic language in content areas, but they were struggling in what we call BICS, just your basic intercommunication skills, the things that you would say, like, how do I cross the street? And we got that feedback pretty consistently for the first several years. And so one of the ways we've tried to, so that was a challenge, and one of the ways we were trying to mitigate that challenge is by rethinking what role does Mandarin play versus how much more exposure is needed for Spanish? How do we really look at the time and treatment for language distribution across content areas during the day? And how do we integrate that more readily? The other thing that we've also thought about, and it's actually been impacted a little bit in the way that we've gone about applications, is how do we integrate more bilingual pairs into the program so that you have authentic English speakers and native Spanish speakers in the same room learning from each other. And those are ways we try to mitigate it. But I would say one thing I want to commend the principals with is they own their programs so well. You almost like you seed an idea and then they just explode it, which is really what you have. You have these schools that have turned these programmatic ideas into these things that are really like living things of their own. It's all because of them and their staff. I would say, generally speaking, like Dr. Horton said, they've been very successful over the years. The challenge that exists is really, I would say we had the greatest challenge has probably been around language, and it's making sure that the outcomes for language are what the goal was intended to be, which is why we have to be agile and kind of make our adjustments along the way when kids are either meeting the targets or they're not. Yeah.
No, and the programs I think are fantastic. I mean, and to your point of they were driven by staff input. I mean, Ms. Gonzalez, I remember when y'all came a few years ago with the idea for doing the AYP program and turning Crow into a leadership academy, and that came from the campus level. And that, I mean, and now they're one of the handful of AYP schools, that are around, I think, which is an amazing opportunity that we need to capitalize on. And, with French at Wimbish, I mean, there's not many dual language French programs in the entire state. And so we have those opportunities, as Ms. Richardson mentioned. I mean, we have real school choice in our programs, and if anybody's out there, who is real big on school choice, there's a debate going around about that right now. But I would encourage them to check out the choices that we have here, because we have quite a bit of curricular choice in this district, and it's not especially at the elementary level. It's not. There's no test to get in. It's interest driven. It's not ability driven. The kids who are going to Corey and Jones don't need to have some special talent in the fine arts to get in, and that's an important note. And that's, to me, real school choice. I mean, otherwise you're just talking about the choice to take public money and go to a place that's pretty much like anything else. But I want to just close by saying I think it is so great that to see, I mean, Ms. Richardson's story about her kids down in Mexico, that we're celebrating. These are all programs that celebrate the diversity of our students in their experiences. And, my parents came up in this district, and it was a different time, but I have heard stories from my dad and his brothers that when they moved to North Texas in the 60s, that if they spoke Spanish at school, they would get disciplined for it. And here we are now, and we're celebrating it, and we're promoting it. And it's just, I think, a great evolution of how we've changed how we think when it comes to equipping our kids to deal with a global workforce, not just workforce, but just a global community.
Thank you.
So I'm very glad that we have these programs here, and thank you for all of your work that you do.
Yes, Dr. Horton, can you take the slide back to the advertisement there? So I just want to put a plug out there that on October 24th between 6:30 and 7:30, if you're listening, we invite you to come to Explore ISD. Our application's open for these programs starting on October 24th, and they're going to go all the way until January 17th. So if you have questions, we invite you to reach out to the principals. They're happy to answer anything. If you want to see the campus, we'd love to have your kids.
Thank you, Dr. Horton.
Thank you very much.
It's a whole new world. There was nothing like this when I was in elementary school. And to think all the different opportunities that we are allowing our students and their families, it's unbelievable the choices that we have in this district. And I just hope more people will take the time to learn about these programs and find out about them and perhaps send their child our way, whether it's within AISD or transfer in. But we have an amazing programs that I just think more people should take advantage of. They're learning life skills. And we just appreciate all of you so much. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We now come to our open forum for non-agenda items. Ms. Forsberg, do we have any requesters registered to address the board regarding non-agenda items?
Yes, ma'am, we have 2 registered speakers for non-agenda items.
Thank you, Ms. Forsberg. I'll now call on Whitney McLaughlin. Is Whitney here? Ms. McLaughlin? We'll move on to Timothy Fox. No Timothy Fox? All right, we'll move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Wirtz?
Thank you, President Fowler. I'd like to share some information about some exciting news that's happened since the superintendent's report at our last board meeting. And I want to start off the report by sending a big thank you to all the outstanding leaders at our campuses. October is also known as National Principals Month, and we're truly blessed to have so many wonderful teachers and leaders here in Arlington ISD. We've been spotlighting them weekly this month, and they all certainly deserve it. So thank you, principals, for all you do to lead our schools and do great things for kids. Ashworth principal Stacy Maddox and her staff did a great job supporting dyslexia teacher Kim Harris. Last year, Kim Harris was diagnosed with breast cancer, and recently she had to go to the hospital for a blood transfusion, but the hospital did not have her blood type, and so the principal organized a blood drive at the Seguin Network, and over 50 people donated blood for the cause. It was in honor of Harris and a great way to celebrate her and to highlight Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And congratulations to the Lamar Wind and Lamar Percussion Ensembles for being selected to perform at the 2024 Music for All National Festival in Indianapolis next March. The event is considered the top non-competitive festival for prep musical ensembles, and schools are honored for their music ability as well as their scholastic excellence. Only 45 ensembles from all across the country were selected, so we want to give our congratulations to Lamar Director of Bands Alan Lang and his team for all their hard work in making this happen for kids. And October is also Bullying Prevention Month, and we have groups of outstanding students at several campuses that are doing their part to prevent bullying. And they are members of what are called Hope Squads, and we have 17 of them at our campuses. Hope Squad is a national peer-to-peer suicide prevention program aimed at reducing youth suicide through education, training, and peer intervention. And Amos Elementary was our first elementary Hope Squad campus, and recently it was visited by a member of the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, which helps the program, and also the Faith Flight Finish Foundation, and that foundation actually helps with our funding. So thank you to all these boys and girls who are doing great things for their peers. And we had another great event on Wednesday morning at Martin High School when we broke ground for the Michael Glaspie Field Athletics Complex. I have to say, just personally, this was ironic because I never thought in my career that I would be breaking ground for a football stadium, but here I am. The complex, which was made possible by the 2019 bond, will transform the current football stadium at the school into a new facility that will reap the benefits for our students and their student athletes and cheer teams and drill teams, bands, and far more for both the Martin and the Seguin High Schools. I can't wait to see the facility looks like when construction is complete at the end of next year. And last but not least, our senior staff continued our bi-monthly road trip by visiting Butler Elementary at our senior staff meeting. I want to thank Butler Principal Mark Basham and his outstanding staff for hosting us. It was a great to visit with so many of the outstanding teachers that work so hard at Butler Elementary and seeing all the students engaged in such meaningful work. So thank you for having us, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Wirtz. Do I have any school board members with reports? Seeing none, Ms. Secretary, do we have any items to consider?
Thank you, President Fowler. We do have one request from Trustee Wilbanks. Trustee Wilbanks requested major reports such as our DIP and CIPs be sent to the board at least 1 week prior to board meetings, so we have time to review. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. And with that, we will adjourn. It is 9:23.